I'm Vinnie Politan. The subject of my investigation is the tragic death of Dan Markel, a brilliant law professor and a loving father who is dead because he wanted to be with his children and wanted to be a part of their lives. Here's the story. Donna Adelson, the matriarch of a seemingly respectable Miami family, now stands accused of orchestrating a deadly conspiracy cloaked in silence and blood. Her former son-in-law, Dan Markel, a brilliant Florida State University law professor and loving father, was gunned down in his driveway in July of 2014, shot twice in the head in broad daylight. The motive, a bitter custody battle between Markel and Donna's daughter, Wendi. When courts denied Wendi permission to relocate with their children to South Florida, Donna allegedly took matters into her own hands. Prosecutors say she funded and coordinated a murder-for-hire plot, enlisting Miami gang members through her son's girlfriend, Catherine McBanoa. The hired gunmen, Sigfredo Garcia and Luis Rivera, drove 400 miles to Tallahassee to execute the hit. Over the years, each thread of the conspiracy unraveled, first the shooters, then McBanoa, and finally Donna herself. Now behind bars, accused of murder and conspiracy, Donna Adelson faces justice for a crime that shattered lives and stunned the nation. The level of destruction in this case is so uncalled for. It's a divorce. It's a custody battle. That's what we have courts for. You have a father who wants to be with his children, and because he wanted to be with his children, he's dead. Completely outrageous. And then you look at how this whole plot went, because Charlie Adelson, Donna's son, Wendy's brother, has been convicted already in all of this. So the Adelsons, successful, tons of money. They have a great life that they're living. Somehow hook up with some Latin kings to set up a hit on your nephew's father and allegedly on your grandchildren's father. Unbelievable. I want you to take a listen. This is from Charlie Adelson's trial, where the prosecution is sort of outlining what they say happened here and what they proved to two juries already. Take a look.
This murder was set into motion because back in 2014, the defendant's family, the Adelson family, had a big problem. And that big problem was Dan Markel. And the solution to that problem was this defendant. This defendant was the solution to that problem because he had a girlfriend with connections to the type of people who were willing and capable of pointing a gun at a complete stranger and pulling the trigger. The victim in this case was known as Danny to his friends and family. He was a loving father to two little boys. He was a highly respected professor at Florida State College of Law. And tragically, on July 18th of 2014, Dan Markel was shot twice in the head in broad daylight. He was being followed. He was being followed by two hired hitmen who traveled all the way from Miami to Tallahassee for the sole purpose of murdering him. And just like something out of a horror movie, he pulls into his driveway, and the car that, unknown to him, pulls in right behind him. Moments later, Dan Markel's neighbor heard a gunshot. He looked out the window and he saw a light-colored Toyota Prius backing quickly out of Dan Markel's driveway and then speeding away.
Again, Dan Markel, in this whole custody battle, he's a law professor at Florida State University. That's why he's in Tallahassee. And the battle was about where should the children be. Wendi Adelson wanted to move back down to South Florida, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of miles away with the kids, and obviously Dan wanted to be with his boys. So that's what the battle was about. So the hitmen are hired, and they're the ones who carry out the murder. And that brings me to the first question in our investigation. What did the hitmen know about Dan Markel? What did they know about their target? Did they know who he was, why they were taking him out, his backstory, that they were going to leave 2 young children without a dad? Here to help answer that question, Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas and mitigation specialist and defense investigator Monica Jordan. Cody, I want to begin with you because we've had some trials regarding what happened here to Dan. And what have we learned about this question, about what the hitmen knew or did not know about Dan Markel from those trials?
Well, of course, Vinny, we have these 2 hitmen wrapped up in this web of crime, Luis Rivera and Sigfredo Garcia. Now, we have not heard any testimony from Sigfredo himself at all, only Luis Rivera. But during Charlie Adelson's trial, we heard from, again, Rivera. He said he did not know Dan Markel, but he did tell the court how he found out about the hit, how he found out about the job to go murder Dan Markel. Take a listen.
Do you know Dan Markel?
No.
Do you know why Garcia or how Garcia came to know about this murder or this job?
His girl,
Who's that?
Katie.
So you heard it there, Vinny, his girl, Katie. Katie being Catherine McBanawa, who also had a dating history with now convicted son of Donna Adelson, Charlie Adelson. Now, again, during Charlie Adelson's trial, Catherine McBanawa tells the court how the hitmen, how she relayed the information to the hitmen about going to carry out the job. Now, she says that Sigfredo did not know that Charlie Adelson was involved, but he did know it was for a woman who was trying to get her kids back. Take a listen.
Does Sigfredo Garcia know that he's doing the murder for Charlie Adelson?
To my knowledge, he might have had an inkling about it, but I don't know. That was never spoken of.
Okay, the killers, and when I say the killers, I'm referring to Garcia and Rivera, knew they were doing something for a lady to get her kids back. Do you know how they knew that information?
I believe it's because of the envelope that Charlie gave me to pass over.
So you didn't relay that information to them that it had to do with a lady and her kids?
I might have mentioned it to Sigfredo, yes.
When you were talking about Wendy's husband and the problems with him to Sigfredo Garcia, I know you've already said this, but I just want to be crystal clear.
Yes, ma'am.
Did you say the name Dan Markel?
No, ma'am. I never knew Dan Markel's name.
How was the name Dan Markel, the location and name of the target for this killing, provided to the killers?
I believe it was all the information that was given to Sigfredo, which I got from Charlie, was all in that paper.
Paper provided by this defendant?
Yes, ma'am.
So Vinny, Catherine McBanawa seen there testifying. Now, she is also serving a life sentence for her role in Dan Markel's murder as well.
All right, Monica, this is an interesting part of the case because one who has admittedly done it, who carried out the hit, what exactly do they know about the target? And in this case, what do we think they knew about Dan Markel?
They knew very little about Dan Markel. All they knew was the information provided from Katie. Katie was the absolute conduit for this entire tragedy to happen in this case. Had it not been for Katie introducing these 2 units, this never would have happened. She diminishes her role by saying everything was learned through a document that Charlie wrote and provided to them, and that's just inconsistent because Luis Rivera has testified throughout, 6 different times how this information came to him through Sigfredo, and Charlie's just not going to put the entire map of killing this guy on a piece of paper for Sigfredo. I don't even know if Sigfredo would have the bandwidth to read it correctly.
And I want to make it clear, Monica, you worked on the case and you're part of the team for Luis Rivera, the one who provided cooperation to help convict Catherine McManawa, Sigfredo Garcia, and Charlie Adelson up until this point.
Yes.
Are we getting the truth in these trials? Like, because Catherine McManawa has flip-flopped on her testimony, right? When she was on trial, she testified that she knew nothing. Then when Charlie's on trial after she's been convicted, now she knows something. I always get the feeling that we're not getting the whole truth.
Oh, I completely agree. You're never going to get the entire truth from Katie. I will tell you this, Luis Rivera has been truthful from day one. Once he decided to proffer and put his life in danger and testify in these proceedings, he has been consistent in every trial, and he's also been consistent in every deposition. Every time they get a new legal team, he gets redeposed. His information is completely consistent, and that's because he's telling the truth. One of the hardest things about this is that if he wanted to manufacture testimony and make things more difficult for Charlie or for Katie or for any of them, he'd have the opportunity, but he doesn't. It's just like in the Donna Adelson case coming up. He doesn't know her. So his role will be very, very limited in the Donna Adelson case.
Because he has no contact with anyone, right? His contact is only with Sigfredo?
Correct. And loosely with Katie. He knew Katie. He was not a fan of Katie's. He's always thought Katie was playing Sigfredo. She used those two children. Sigfredo, unfortunately, Katie was the love of his life, and she led him straight to slaughter.
So how does Luis end up as part of this? Like Sigfredo, I get the connection. Is Luis the one who is friendly with Sigfredo and Sigfredo goes to him?
Yes, they are lifelong friends. And in fact, when Sigfredo came to him with this idea to help Katie for some dentist and a lady, because Luis never even knew Wendi Adelson. He always referred to her as the lady and the dentist. So you kind of know that's got to be Charlie and Wendi. His position when this first came to him was, why don't we just rob the lady? Tell her, just take her money and tell her we'll do the hit. So he never was really all in on committing a murder and then ended up getting sucked further in.
All right, Monica Jordan, Cody, you're going to stay with us. Coming up next, what did Harvey Adelson know? The brutal murders of 4 University of Idaho students.
Oh my God, this doesn't happen here.
Detectives arrested 28-year-old Brian Kohlberger.
You could tell there was some off about him.
He was stalking them. He was hunting them.
Forget about motive. We don't even have a connection.
This trial will be on Court TV.
And I pray that we have justice.
The Idaho College Student Murders Trial. Live coverage begins this August, only on Court TV.
At the time of Dan Markel's murder, were your parents extremely angry with Dan?
At that point, no. They were in a much better place.
We'll see if the jury agrees with that. That's Wendi Adelson testifying. She's testified in all these trials. She hasn't been charged with anything, though. She's been providing testimony to help prosecute people, including her brother. Now, she doesn't necessarily want him convicted, but she's getting up there and testifying, and her testimony is being used against her. When Donna Adelson got arrested, her and her husband Harvey were actually at the airport. They had one-way tickets to Vietnam. Take a look at the moment that Donna is put under arrest and has to say goodbye to Harvey.
I'm sorry, greetings for viewers.
By the way, I don't think I've ever seen that in body cam before. Someone's being arrested and gets to kiss their spouse goodbye as they're being shoveled off. But it actually happened. And Harvey, right? He is the one who ran the dental, or was in charge of the dental practice, founded the dental practice, and kind of set the table for this family to live this amazing life. but he hasn't been charged with anything. And that brings me to the next question in our investigation. What did Harvey know, right? Wendi hasn't been charged, but she's been testifying. Charlie convicted, Donna facing trial. Helping us to answer our question in our investigation, Court TV field reporter Cody Thomas and Monica Jordan, who worked for the defense team for Luis Rivera. She's a defense investigator, a really good one, by the way. I want to play this because this was, again, fascinating and something that is sort of compelling from my perspective. It's Harvey and Charlie together at a restaurant, and there's a wire there, and they're being recorded. It's kind of noisy, so you really got to listen closely. And it seemed at the time that they almost thought that they were being followed and recorded. And this is before, obviously, any of the Adelsons have been arrested. And I think it's before Catherine McBannon was arrested as well. Take a listen. Monica, I want to get your thoughts about Harvey Adelson. He hasn't been charged. Do you think he may be? Do you think he knows more than I guess we believe at this point?
Well, I think he knew. I think Donna told him about this extortion, or at least that's was Charlie's version of events during his trial. You know, Donna's kind of stuck with this new legal team and is married to that philosophy and that strategy because Charlie and his legal team already put that forward. I thought it was, if I was Harvey, I probably would have gone on to Vietnam and been done with this.
Just flown there.
I would have left Donna in the county jail.
Cody, there's been some reporting that Harvey's phone was wiretapped. What did you find out?
Absolutely, Vinny. Now stick with me because this is kind of a lot of information here. So there were these 2 warrant applications presented by the chief investigator for the state attorney's office in December of 2024 and January of 2025. Now, Donna's attorneys say the state disclosed this new discovery in April of 2025 this year. Now, both warrants allowed for the wiretaps of Harvey Adelson's phone, which of course he uses to talk to Donna behind bars. Now, the first warrant affidavit stated that Harvey is the most frequent caller for Donna Adelson. No surprise there. And it goes on to suggest that she, quote, relays information to Harvey through attorney privilege calls, which, of course, are not monitored. And, of course, prosecutors requested this warrant to determine any patterns with the privilege calls, along with any potential threats that may be orchestrated. Now, that second warrant affidavit, prosecutors wrote that a jailhouse informant alleged Donna Adelson was offering to pay for witness testimony, but it also said that there were overlapping communication records between Harvey Adelson, the defense attorney's cell phones, and their visits with Donna at the jail. Now, these affidavits presented to the judge following the wiretaps of Harvey's phone contain accusations that Donna and Harvey were talking about plans to harm their own estranged son, Robert Adelson, to harm Catherine McBanawah and the mother of the jailhouse informant as well. Now, of course, Donna's lawyers say these allegations are reckless and deeply offensive, but prosecutors have already said that they plan to play at least 1 or 2 of those wiretaps once this trial begins.
Are you surprised by any of this, Monica?
No, I said early on that once they got Charlie and they started listening to those calls, the house of cards would fall for the mother, potentially the father, and even Wendi. And that's exactly what happened. It was based on recorded jail phone calls between Charlie and his mother, because she didn't hang up on one of those recorded calls, is how they ended up learning about her one-way trip to Vietnam. So I kind of saw that coming, but I think that's just because that was the next step. Because I had always said every syllable Charlie uttered, whether it was in the written word or the verbal word, was going to be monitored, and that's exactly what happened, and that's how they nabbed Donna.
And are you surprised that they're still chatting at this point, like, and potentially saying things that could be used against them?
Well, I will say this. I mean, I haven't seen those search warrant applications, but if they're in there and they've taken it to a judge, I would say with pretty good authority, they're not just making it up. They have that probably pretty well defined, because they're not going to be able to get that search warrant for a Title IX or a T3 wiretap on Harvey's phone without some pretty good documentation. The fact that they're talking about harming other witnesses, hurting other witnesses, witness tampering, really shouldn't surprise me. But it's like the narcissism and the level of them being so superior to the rest of the world is a little off-putting, and I think a local Tallahassee jury is going to find that very offensive.
Yeah, well, I agree with you 1,000%. I think you're right on with that analysis. Monica Jordan, thank you so much. Cody Thomas, great work as always. Appreciate it. Up next, how is Donna doing behind bars? I'm Vinnie Politan. We continue our investigation of the murder for hire of Dan Markel, who fought in court to ensure that he could be with his children. And because he was winning that battle, he lost his life and his boys lost their dad. Here's the story. Donna Adelson, a 76-year-old matriarch from Miami, was dramatically arrested at Miami International Airport in November of 2023 as she and her husband attempted to leave the country to Vietnam on one-way tickets just days after her son Charlie was convicted of orchestrating the 2014 murder for hire of her former son-in-law, Dan Markel. Donna now faces serious allegations: first-degree murder, conspiracy, and solicitation of murder, accused of funding and coordinating the deadly plot that ended Markel's life in his Tallahassee driveway. Prosecutors argue she was the plot's mastermind, enlisting gang-affiliated hitmen via her son's girlfriend. A body cam video captured her stunned reaction. This is a mistake, as she was led away. A judge denied her bond, citing flight risk and attempts to evade justice, including her efforts to leave the country for Vietnam, and concerns over protecting future proceedings. In jail, her attorneys claim she's endured inhumane treatment, solitary confinement, withheld medication, and extreme conditions. With her trial set for this summer, Donna Adelson now stands accused of orchestrating a cold, calculated conspiracy that ripped apart a family and claimed the life of her grandchildren's father. A dose of reality for Donna Adelson, going from that life of privilege that she was living down in South Florida, going out to the nice restaurants, having some money, having a little prestige, fancy cars, to now a life in jail awaiting your murder trial while your son has already been convicted. The question is, will you join him in life in prison down in Florida? I want you to take a look at Donna Adelson's arrest. The body cameras obviously were rolling at that moment at the airport on her way to Vietnam with a one-way ticket with her husband, Harvey. Because I think it really brings home the moment of again, reality hitting Donna that, hey, this is it. You are now going to be tried for murder. Take a look.
I don't want to give it to you. Why do I have to? Because my attorney said not to. Why do I have to give it to you? This is evidence.
Put your hands behind your back like if you were praying. Let me help you out so you hurt yourself.
You'll be freezing. You'll be glad you have it. When did they issue a warrant?
So what happened is we have to take you to our warrant room for that information to get entered, and then after that gets entered, before we can take you to the jail, to the local jail.
Okay, because I didn't know there was a warrant. How would I know that?
Well, she has attempted to get out of jail before her trial unsuccessfully, and that brings us to the next question in our investigation. How is Donna doing behind bars? Had to be an absolute shock to her system. Here to help answer this question, criminal defense attorney, former federal prosecutor Tim Jansen, and criminal defense attorney Sydney Rushing. Great to have you both here. Before we start talking, I want to show this because this is Donna Adelson in one of her hearings talking about all the things that have been happening to her while she's locked up.
I was the only one in the shower. I always go in early morning because there's nobody there. Most of the girls sleep, so I take a shower and I have a little privacy. And so I was washing my hair, and all of a sudden I felt a hand go up my back, like from the top of my butt up my back, and I yelled, "Stop it!" And I turned, and this girl said, "You like it?" And I said, "Get out of here!" And I started to scream, and she ran. I have like shooting pain from the top here of my shoulder down the outside of my arm into my forearm.
Okay, and you're pointing to your left arm. Is that the one you're referring to?
It's my left arm. I've gained more than a third of my body weight here. The diet is all carbs, no protein. We have had no exercise at all. We're confined, especially in the annex. The annex, we've been confined to our beds almost all the time. Once in a while, we get a pod officer that lets us walk, so you can walk in a circle around the girls' beds. She said, "You're gonna buy me commissary." I said, "I'm gonna what?" And she said, "Unless you want those pretty white teeth knocked out of your mouth, you're gonna buy me commissary."
All right, Tim Jansen, she was this close to getting to Vietnam, didn't make it there. What are your thoughts about the way she's being treated or her allegations of what's happening behind bars?
Well, you know, what we know about Donna from her life and through the trials, Donna likes to have control. What does Donna not have at the jail? Control. When she was at the annex, she had a pretty good system there. They put her all the way in the corner. They gave her double mattresses. A couple of the other girls would look after her. But she made the mistake of talking to some of these girls, not realizing these women in prison are all trying to get out. And I believe a couple of them are going to testify against her. The allegations about the shower routine, of course, that's not fun. The food is going to be horrible. And people wanting canteens, she was ripe for target for extortion because who she was and the money. But she put herself there. And if you heard her talk to her daughter in some of those calls about the divorce and moving her child, she was saying, toughen up, you need to act. Well, she's getting a chance and she's folding. But you see, when she got arrested, she still wanted to be in control. She didn't want to give her phone up. Then she said, you have to tell me when there's a warrant. She does not believe the laws apply to her.
That is so apparent. Thanks, Tim. That's great analysis. Sydney, I want you to take a look at this. She's actually been relocated. Donna Adelson relocated from the Leon County Jail to the Wakulla County Jail. Her defense team requested that change because the jail's new policy didn't allow her to use a tablet, which she needs to communicate with her attorneys. What are your thoughts about how she's doing behind bars?
So I think she's obviously having a difficult time adjusting to life behind bars. Obviously going from her prior lifestyle to the lifestyle she now has, it's quite the difference. She did get that transferred to the neighboring county jail because of the tablet situation. She said, you know, in the current situation she was in, she was only allowed out 20 minutes on Tuesday and Thursdays, and I think it was an hour on Monday, Wednesday, Fridays, and no time on the weekends. And the tablet used to be a 24-hour thing where she could always have contact with her attorneys. So now that they've taken that away, except for these little window of time, her defense did the right thing by saying this is impossible for us to prepare for this trial that's coming up in August if we can't talk with her, which obviously the tablets make it much more convenient than them having to go down into the jail themselves. So they said that the judge didn't have to approve this transfer, that this was basically a jail-to-jail decision. And so she got that transfer in, and now she's back to being able to use her tablet. But I think going to a new jail is going to create new problems for her and make her a new target in another place. I don't think she's going to see much difference in that jail than the jail that she was at prior.
Yeah, that's a great point. Let's take a look at this. This was an interesting development. A jailhouse informant is claiming that Donna Adelson offered to pay for witness testimony in her upcoming murder trial. Those allegations only became public knowledge recently, but they've already been investigated by the FBI, local police in Tallahassee, and the prosecution. No charges were filed. From a motion from the defense, the state alleged that a jailhouse informant alleged Mrs. Adelson was offering to pay for witness testimony. Tim, are you surprised by allegations like this?
No, I think the key thing here that really people need to look at those warrants is when they started talking about the overlapping of visits and phone calls from Harvey to Jackie Fulford at the same time they were visiting Donna. The allegation is that the lawyers took phones in there into the jail and allowed Donna to talk to Harvey on an attorney-client privileged phone call, which is illegal, unethical, problematic, and it should not have been done. And so if it's true, it's truly problematic, but the court has limited ties. If you're going to do some sanctions at this point, you're going to have to end up continuing the trial. But it doesn't surprise me. And Vinnie, these tablets are so important because Charlie was able to do mock trials from his jail cell in Leon County on the tablet. So a mock trial is where you get a jury consultant comes in and you do a pre-trial, and he was able to do it from his jail cell.
Wow.
On a tablet.
Wow.
And which is unheard of. I've never seen that done, but it was done. And Donna wants that tablet so she can communicate and possibly do mock juries before the trial.
Fascinating insight. I just, before we end the segment, I just want to put up the before and after picture of Wendi Adelson, of Donna Adelson, so you can see what happens when you go to jail. We've got the mugshot on the left and the more recent shot on the right. And yeah, jail is tough, folks. Jail is tough. It's not easy living. All right, our guests are staying with us. Still to come, will Wendi testify against her mother?
Coming soon to Court TV.
It's the biggest story that we're covering.
These murders have shaken our community.
He is the boogeyman.
So many eyes have been on Donna Adelson from the beginning. It's terrible.
A social media sensation, now a suspected killer.
Why do you have something against me?
She wrote a children's book about her husband's death. Now she's accused of killing him.
The high-stakes trials you don't want to miss. Coming soon, only on Court TV.
Somebody
tried to kill my ex-husband, they should be prosecuted to the full extent of the law.
Regardless of who it is.
I mean, it would be different if I thought it were my brother, but I don't think it was my family. Anyone outside my immediate family, that's a tough one. But I don't think my immediate family did this, so.
I don't think they did that. And then she's the one who tipped him off about the joke, the alleged joke that her brother had made about hiring a hitman to do it. It's really bizarre. Wendi Adelson's statements, and that's the interview on the day that Dan Markel was executed. But she's also testified in all the trials. She's testified against Alfredo Garcia, Catherine McBanoa, and then a third time in the trial of her brother, Charlie Adelson. Take a look.
Is your mom overprotective of you?
Yes.
All right. And is it fair to say she's, a little on the controlling side?
I don't think she's controlling, but she's definitely overprotective.
Did she ever try to micromanage your life?
Maybe, yeah.
Did she have an interest in who you were dating and who you weren't dating and who you should be dating when you were single?
I think she was usually disappointed that I wasn't dating more.
Okay. For example, isn't it true that she would not let you drive to and from Tallahassee to South Florida?
Well, I used to drive before I had the boys, but they were young, and she preferred to come with me and give me some extra support.
I want you to answer the question. What was the most important part
of the divorce for my mom?
Yes.
It says here that for her it was relocation.
Quote, it was always his joke. He said, I looked into hiring a hitman and it was cheaper to get you this TV. Is that what he said?
That was the joke that he made, yes.
And hiring the hitman, that was to kill Dan Markel, right? That was the joke.
That was the joke that he made in poor taste, yes.
Did you ever hear your brother refer to that particular dinner as a celebratory dinner?
No.
Did you tell Jeffrey Lacoste that your brother called that a celebratory dinner?
I did not.
Was that dinner a celebration of the murder of your ex-husband?
Absolutely not. That dinner was the first time I left my house after over a month because I was terrified. And if it was a celebration of anything, it was a celebration that I was willing to leave the house and eat a meal.
So she's testified in every trial, and that brings us to the next question in our investigation. Will Wendi testify against her mother? Will she be called by prosecutors once again? This time with her mother in the defendant's chair. Helping us answer our question with our investigation, Tim Jansen, Sydney Rushing. Sydney, what are your thoughts?
I think it's highly likely that the prosecution will call her. They did call her in the prior trials. So I think it's it makes sense to me if they did call her. Obviously, her testimony is not great for Donna. Donna's kind of the last one appearing for trial in this, in this case or in the entire situation. So I definitely think I think the prosecution's gonna call her. And I think it's as simple as that.
Tim, it just seems like Donna's in the middle of everything, right? And as a parent, you can be a helicopter parent. I mean, this is the ultimate example of that. I mean, she was on, as I recall, she's on J-Date with her daughter, spotting Dan Markel. Like that's how they found him. It wasn't Donna. It wasn't Wendi by herself. Her mom was right there with her all the way along. Will she be testifying at the next trial?
Well, I can tell you she's definitely going to be testifying because I had a conversation with her lawyer and we plan on maybe having a drink when he's in town for the testimony. I also spoke to the prosecution and they've indicated that they're going to pretty much call the same witnesses. The trial should take about the same length, except they're going to have to add in the whole Vietnam trip, which should add a little more to the trial. So, yeah, Donna's going to, of course, Wendy's going to testify. And the question is going to be, what dress will she wear? Yeah, she wore the same dress in 2 trials. Right. In the last trial, she changed. So we'll see. Yeah.
Amazing. I'm wondering, Sydney, like a jury's going to be watching her, and they've done it before. Like, she's testifying about all this. No one benefited more potentially from all of this than Wendi, because she was the one who wanted Well, her mother really wanted her to come down, but she wanted to move also to be closer to her family. As a result of Dan being executed, she moved. She raised her children in South Florida. She got what she wanted, yet she's never been charged with anything. It's kind of like a strange spot that she's in once again here.
It is, and I mean, if you look at it, like, yes, she did benefit from it, but this is also her husband. So even if they were going through a bitter divorce, I mean, I truly feel that most people who go through that situation where they may have really, like, you know, upset feelings towards a person, they don't actually want them to be murdered so they can go about their day and go live where they want to live. Because realistically, if she wanted to, she could have taken the kids, moved to, you know, Miami, and then dealt with the fallout or the aftermath of the court system. You know, versus, you know, being a part of this plot. Knowing that they've already went through 4 people who are now serving prison sentences in this, and now we've got Donna's trial coming up, I think it's highly unlikely that they'll wait for Donna's trial to end and then charge her, because that would be a little bit of an inefficient way of trying this case. If they were going to charge Wendi, I think that they would have already. But that's just my thoughts on it. Could they charge her? Sure, but I think they would have already, knowing she is the disgruntled ex-wife.
Yeah. And Tim, what are your thoughts on that? Do you think that's still in play, the potential that Wendi could be charged?
I do not think Wendi will be charged. I don't think they have sufficient evidence to prove a case against Wendi. Charging them together would be a problem. There'd be a brutal problem. They couldn't force Wendi to testify what they want against Donna if she was a co-defendant. I think they're focusing all on Donna. Remember, Charlie talked about to his mother and complained after he was convicted about Wendi driving by the crime scene. So either she was completely a nut job, or she had no idea what they were doing, and she just happened to drive by the crime scene. And then there's a conversation where they say, this, after the bump, this involves the two of us. That kind of negates any guilt of Wendi, right? So Wendy's kind of got some wiggle room here.
Yeah, you know, we've been covering this story for so long, trying to understand how they could go and end up hiring hitmen to do this. And I personally think it got personal between Dan Markel and his ex-mother-in-law, and she just could not take losing because Dan was beating them in court, and she could not stand losing. We shall see what the jury says. Big thank you, Tim Jansen. Really appreciate your valuable time. You too, Sydney Rushing. We'll see you again really soon. You know, I wonder what Wendi Adelson tells her children about their father. You know, they're getting older these days. I'm sure they can read about him online, but do they know how much their dad loved them? I hope she tells them that. And I wonder if she tells them how he fought to be with them. You know, because it was their mother who tried to move away and take them away from dad. I wonder if they question their mother about their Uncle Charlie, who's in prison, and Grandma Donna, who's locked up behind bars. I'm Vinnie Politan. We'll keep digging for answers as the investigation continues.